right? One of the things I want to get into real quick is this draft class, right? The Browns draft class in 2025. It has been lauded as one of the best draft classes in all of football. And it is, I think, the cherry on top of why it is that Andrew Berry is pretty safe here. Like, I think he's done, and I know people, they focus on like, oh, the offensive line is bad or this team has other holes. And that's true, right? But I think those are holes that exist because you made that bet on Watson and it didn't work out. But if you look at where Andrew Berry has poured his resources, right? Comes here in 2020. Browns have a bad offensive line. People forget this, right? Because I hear Daryl Ryder and people talk about like, oh man, the Browns, they inherited such a great team and then they became losers. And it's like, this team was bad in 2019. Like they were under 500 2 years in a row. And somehow this narrative has been like, oh, John Dorsey had a great team here, but it's like, it was never that, right? Like they were underperforming. I was there for that 2019 season in the stadium. Like it wasn't good. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this romance is about 2018 and 2019. Like 2018, they were decent by the end of it. But 2019, I mean, they were an absolute mess. What do you make of like the romanticism around 2019? As if like people have forgotten. Maybe it's because it's before the pandemic, right? But it's almost as if people have forgotten that 2019 was one of the most disappointing seasons up to that point in Browns history because you had traded for Odell Beckham. It didn't work out with Odell that first year. What do you make of this? Because they were a bad team in 2019. When you hear people talk about how good this team was when Kevin got here.
Yeah, it's again thinking back to that team in particular because I mean back then I was covering the team for the OBR as well as starting up at the Fan, and I just remember hearing about like David Njoku being a healthy scratch in December of that against the Arizona Cardinals. Like I just remember the Denver Broncos game where you're going against Trevor Siemian. Or no, I think it was Trev Driscoll at the time. Because Simeon was down. They were down to QB3, and you still
Simeon played for the Jets that year, and then he got destroyed.
That's right. That's right. That was early on in the year that he played with New York. I think Driscoll was the one that started for Denver on that Monday night or Thursday night game, and just like the complete disconnect that you would constantly hear surrounding the team. And I just remember, whether it be Desmond Harrison getting starts at left tackle, the talk mid-season of, hey, do we trade Denzel Ward and a second round pick for Trent Williams? Which, again, I would have loved Trent Williams, but he went for a fifth rounder during the offseason. Like, there were so many different pieces and parts of just dysfunction. And I still go back to, we talk about, or everybody loves to just go to the misses of Andrew Berry and harp on those misses of Andrew Berry. When we look at, the job that John Dorsey had done, and whether it be trading Emmanuel Ogbah, who's still playing today, for Eric Murray, a glorified, third safety, because he drafted him. And then, it's signing Chris Hubbard. It's drafting Greedy Williams over DK Metcalf. And on top of it, there were the rumors during that draft cycle of the Browns loving Jeffrey Simmons. So not only is it trading for Odell Beckham and passing on DK, it's also passing on Jeffrey Simmons in the first round, DK Metcalf in the second, who, again, at the time I had heard that, Dorsey had great affinity for, but again, hadn't addressed corner. That entire team. Oh, and on top of it, starting the prospect X Drew Forbes back then, over top of Wyatt Teller when Wyatt Teller couldn't get a start on this team until the back half of the year anyway.
I feel like it's because what I remember is 2020.
Yeah,
they come in. This offensive line is the focus that offseason.
Hmm.
And they go from bad offensive line with a left tackle who was arrested at the border for transporting massive amounts of drugs.
I just want a
Um,
good Robinson on my team, man. That's all I want. I want a good Robinson. Like I can't get it.
but then they go from that to the 2020 Browns offensive line, right? And then what do they spend the next 3 years trying to build? They spend the next 3 years trying to build a defense. Put all the resources into that. They build a pretty good defense. Like, there has been a proof of concept here that wherever the Browns are focusing these assets in the draft and in free agency, they have been able to squeeze out some pretty good results. And I think when we look at this draft class, right, in 2025, we could start with the first pick.
I
We
swear to
get,
God, man. Oh my God, I'm getting annoyed. And now my internet looks fine. Okay. All right, sweet. I'm I'm sorry I've derailed this a
you're
few
good.
times.
You're good. But what I want to do is look at this draft class, go pick by pick,
Yeah.
and like let's give each pick a grade, right? So far, based on where they're at in their development, how they fit in the Browns' 5-year plan. Let's start with Mason Graham. What's your grade for Mason Graham?
Honestly, I would give Mason Graham a solid B plus. I think that for what people want out of that draft pick, I think is unrealistic. I think he's been stellar in the run game. I think that for what he's been able to do, especially, along that defensive line, as the season's come along, he's been generating a lot of pressure. Obviously, it hasn't translated to sacks. If they translate to sacks, then maybe that would bump that up to an A. But I think that he's done a really good job of development, in terms of development throughout this year. And I think that you can see the reasons behind why he was selected where he was. And again, you can see that development there. So I'm going to give that a solid B plus.
I give it a B to a C plus here. Um, I think a lot with the defensive tackle position, you just need to get your grown man strength right. Like it's just such a hard position to play when you don't have your grandpa strength yet. Um, but I think for what you could ask of Mason Graham, he's done that and had moments where he shows you that he can be dominant. Um, we'll see what ends up happening within the next 5 years with him, right? Because I think he has the potential to be one of those guys who can be on your team for 10, 15 years, hold down the three tech position, and be kind of a stabilizing force, much like a Jeffrey Simmons, much like a Cam Hayward, right? Uh, but I think he's had his struggles early in his career. I think he has had some triumphs, and he's had some struggles again. Um, but all of that is kind of expected from a young defensive tackle, right? The same would be true for anybody in the trenches, right? Like I give guys in the trenches 2-3 years every single time
Mhm.
because it just takes so long to develop that strength. It's kind of why I'm not going to just write off Zach Center yet because I'm like, well, let's see what happens by year 3 with him, right? Because that's kind of when Wyatt popped was year 3. So we'll see what happens with him as well. Let's move on to Carson Swissinger. I think this is a pretty easy one, right?
Can I go above 100%? Like, I don't, I mean, I think it's the easiest A plus that you can ever give. Dude's defensive rookie of the year, and honestly, I think it is very fairly should be an all pro, at this point in year one. And it's funny on the fourth down play against Buffalo last week. I pointed out to Jason Gibbs, in the booth as, seeing everybody line up right above the center, pretty much anticipating a run. You saw Schlesinger make some last minute calls, and all of a sudden starts yelling out at the defense, and he's the one that immediately is peeling out and trying to get set into coverage. And I'm again just seeing him, and I know the comparison gets thrown out there too, but like he's so much like Luke Kuechly. in the fact that he's able to diagnose before you see the play even playing out, and just being able to diagnose that, read, recognize, and react well. I think he's been incredible. I don't think you can ask for much more.
Yeah, his downhill trigger is pretty special. His fluidity, right? Like he's just such a smooth athlete. His hips very smooth. He always like I used to talk about this with JOK, right? Where sometimes JOK's body moves faster than his brain. It never feels like that with Carson Swissinger, right? Like I've seen him be outside wide on a pull with Lamar Jackson, and he's able to break down Lamar Jackson. It's kind of shocking that this dude was a walk-on for UCLA. Like, I don't know how this guy is a walk-on. Like, what kind of late blooming was going on there? Because he's a special athlete
Yeah.
at the position. Like, JOK is special, but he's, I think, a better athlete than JOK because of that ability to be able to move fast and think fast. Yeah, he is awesome. A+ signing right there. It almost reminds me a lot of like the Joe Bitonio pick, where it's like, yeah, you hit a home run there. It was pretty obvious early on. Like that guy's going to be there for like 10 years, and he's going to be a fixture here. All right. The next pick, Quinnshan Judkins, who we found out, the entry is not as bad as we thought it was during the game. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a pretty easy A. A plus. I mean, the only quote unquote drawback is really just like the passing game, and just not really as much of a fixture in that regard. But at the same time, the guy's a home run hitter, and being able to see him hit that next gear and get to that second level and be able to work through hits. It's funny because, and Nathan Zagura brought this up during our broadcast multiple times, but James Cook throughout this season has over 400 yards before contact in this season. Going into last game, Quinnshan Judkins had 43. Like the fact that he almost got to 1,000 yards in his rookie season with less than 50 yards going into his final game before contact really just goes to show the kind of special patient runner that he is, because again, he's able to work through the gaps, everything like that. He's done a phenomenal job. And again, pretty easily you could tell, just on the field and also like on the sidelines, seeing his demeanor, being able to fire up not only his teammates but also the fans, and just like the positivity that I know I've seen, on the road trips a few times throughout this year as well. That I think Quinnshan is one of those guys that can really be a culture setter, and I know that gets thrown around a lot, but at the same time, he's a dude that just wants to win and is very fiery about it, but also is such a good fixture in that locker room.
Yeah, I think too we've seen the ability for him to kind of put the offense on his back when
Yes.
he gets decent blocking. I know people are going to focus in on his yard per carry numbers, but I think there's a pretty obvious explanation for that.
Yeah.
And his offensive line has been horrifically injured all year, and even when they weren't injured, it's not like they were good. But like, I don't think this Browns offensive line was healthy at any point this year.
No, no, you're about right there. I mean, from having to deal with the Jack Conklin injury early, I mean, it's
Dewan
been.
gets hurt too.
Yeah, and I mean, hell, even the guys that are out there, it's been widely reported the fact that, Joel Bitonio has been, struggling to walk at times throughout this year because of his back issue. And, again, just being able to do all of that despite the fact that, he's had multiple centers, multiple left tackles, multiple right tackles, multiple right guards. Like it's been unreal to see what kind of production he was able to get despite those circumstances.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Harold Fannon, I think this is another pretty easy one, right?
Yeah, that's a solid A plus. I think that or I'll give it an A just because of, I think he can improve in terms of blocking, but again, like the way that he's been able to come in day one be the number one pass catcher on this team far and away, and not only like be able to make, again, sometimes you see like the a lot of plays downfield, everything like that. What I love about Fannon is the fact that whenever he gets the ball in his hands, he always finds a way to fall forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like fall forward, work through tackles. I mean, hell, there's been multiple times this year where you've seen him work through 3, 4, or 5 defenders and still be able to get positive yards and somehow get a first down on like or on fifth or second and 15, like, and be able to work his way for a first down that I have no idea how he did it on a 4-yard check down. Like it's been very impressive to see how he's been able to not only grow but really just make such a solid impact. And I'm gonna say this a lot with a lot of these rookies too, but another very important. He's quiet, but at the same time, a very important culture fixture that you have on this team. And I think the wilder part to me is the fact that like David Njoku's been MIA for how many weeks, and we haven't talked about it really at all. And
Yeah.
he's really supplanted him as that number one pass catching option.
Yeah. So what? Going into the season, I thought a good year for him would be like what, 400 yards, couple
Yeah.
touchdowns. He's at 705 yards and touchdowns. So pretty impressive year for him. And here's the crazy part: he should probably be closer to 800 because he had the drops earlier in the year, right? Like he
Yeah.
had a couple of big drops. It probably cost him like 200 yards of production at the beginning of the season. And, now he's just putting up these kind of numbers. And I'm very interested to see what he continues to be because he's only going to get bigger and stronger. All right, let's go to the next guy. That's Dylan Gabriel, right?
Sorry, could you give that to me one more time?
Oh, it's Dylan Gabriel, the next pick.
Yeah. All right. So Gabriel. I'm gonna give this one a. I mean, it's got to be D minus. Like, I think that, uh, preparation obviously goes in, but like we talked about before, his progress from week to week, I think that you saw him regressing from that initial start over in London, all the way to what you saw against New York. You saw him progressively getting worse and worse with every single week. And even in the Ravens game where, it felt like he was so gun shy that you weren't seeing any level of a downfield threat, which also kind of coincided with, Quinnshan having that box loaded up so that, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us with Dylan Gabriel, and it wasn't happening. And so, again, good dude. But at the same time, just from what we saw on the field, just not enough to, obviously not enough to warrant a top 100 pick, not at all. But at the same time, just like not what you need to see out of the quarterback, and especially not what you want to see out of a rookie when it comes to his progression throughout the year.
Yeah, I got to give the pick an F. And look, I think I called it the Siaki Ika pick of the draft
Yep,
when it happened. Where I'm
that's
like,
fair.
this is the pick that I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't know why they did that. The reason I give it an F is if you don't draft Dylan Gabriel, half the bullshit that we heard about like the whole Sanders sabotage narrative doesn't come up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like you avoid that, right? But because you drafted Dylan Gabriel in front of Shador, and I don't know if they should have took Shador in the third round or anything like that. But because you took him, and it just created this situation where it became very exhausting for everybody involved, including Dylan Gabriel, who I don't really think like. I think he can develop into, a backup quarterback, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that here just because of everything they put him through. So yeah, it was such a poorly thought out decision. Well, it was a well thought out decision at the time. It's just once you took Sanders, it became poorly thought out,
Yes.
So yeah, there's not really anything positive I can really say about it. Like, I think he did a good job taking care of the football. Then it turned the ball over a ton, which is hard. And I think there's something there with him, but I don't think we're going to see it.
No, and I tend to agree. And it's where, again, I mean, you literally could hear it on Sunday as soon as he came in when Shador got hurt. Like, I it's one of those things where I feel bad for the circumstances, but again, we're here. Like, that's just kind of like it happened. But at the same time, I think when it comes to Dylan, I think that like you said, there can be something there. It's not going to happen in Cleveland. It didn't work out here, but yeah, it's just unfortunate when it comes to his selection, at least there.
All right, Dylan Samson.
Dylan Samson, I'm gonna give this one a solid. I'm gonna give this one a solid B, B plus. I think you can see the explosive plays are there, especially as a pass catcher. And I think that the between him and Quinnshan, I think you can see that dynamic duo forming, especially. But I really like what I've seen from Samson, and I think that his big playability, especially for getting it in the fourth round, especially too, and the way that he's been able to develop, I think is phenomenal. And so I really like the pick. I'm going to give this one a B plus.
Yeah, he's really hard to tackle for a guy who's not that big.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he does need to get a little bit bigger. And once he does, I think he'll be fine. But yeah, I think that's C plus. I just didn't see enough. Like, I didn't get to see him. He didn't get a ton of carries, right? Like, I think that's the big thing is you didn't really get to see him get carries.
Well, I wonder how much of that, and maybe this is also just like, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine the other day, but like, I almost feel like the entire running back room, the entire focus this offseason needs to be pass blocking and pass protection, just so that you're not having as deliberate of tells for defenses of like, hey, Jerome Ford's coming out. They're definitely going to be passing, and he's not running a route. Like,
Yeah.
having that ability to mix and match. I think that kind of hindered Samson a little bit, especially early, where once you saw less playing time for Ford, then you all of a sudden saw that uptick for Samson and the way that he was able to, really take advantage and carve out that role and really kind of phase out Jerome Ford from the game plan. In the same way, I think you're starting to see that now with Rocket Sanders. But at the same time, just I think that there was enough that I saw in terms of the flashes there, but I also think that some of the reasons why you didn't see him as much, I would say, is probably because of some of those little things. Which again, I think that for a fourth round pick, I think that he's in a very good spot, and I liked what I saw from him.
All right, Shador Sanders, last pick here.
Shador, I'm going to give a B. I think that for obviously for the pick, everything like that, we're talking about quarterback position, everything like that too. So it's a little bit different for me. I think that you've seen a lot of positives. I think that seeing him throw the ball down the field, I think has been fantastic. I think that you've seen the continuous growth and improvement. I think it's been great to see. I also still think that you see some of those old habits come up every now and then, less frequently than when he obviously first started. But I would give him a solid B for where he's at. I still think that there's a lot of room to grow, but at the same time, I think that for where he's at as a rookie, I'm giving him a solid B.
He's a difficult one because if we're factoring in the 5-year plan, right? I don't know if he's going to be on this team past this offseason, which is a problem, right? I think in a perfect world, if you had an established quarterback, he would fit in as like a Tanner McGee, right?
Okay.
Like, like a backup that you feel good about, you're developing, and somebody that, you might be able to flip into a pick or something like that. But not necessarily somebody you're going to like stop the whole thing and build the franchise around.
Mhm.
Um, and look, it's a fifth round pick. The expectation shouldn't be that. But because he's such a unique case as a fifth round pick, where there is that expectation, I think you do run into those problems there. I'm interested to see how they'll navigate this because, Andrew Berry, he's very likely to be like, you know what, they're just going to have to be mad and we're just going to keep him on the roster as a backup.
Mhm.
And I'm interested to see how that goes, if that's the way they go about it. So I'll give it a C. I think I've liked what I've seen from Sanders. It's just, I don't know how useful he's going to be to the Cleveland Browns going forward, given the awkward situation that they've kind of put themselves in and have to take themselves out of before the draft.
No, and that's a fair rebuttal to that as well. I think that again, just with where they're at, I tend to agree with you in that sense where I think the quarterback room in general, I think is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Because to be honest with you, I could see Andrew Berry looking at Shador if he's able to get some kind of a deal done this offseason. I could see that working out. Like you said, I could see him being a backup, but I also like there's another part of me too that the other aspect of that quarterback room in particular is that I could see Andrew Berry looking at it as you already have the veteran quarterback in there that will take some of those early snaps and Deshaun Watson that can bridge you to if you select a Mendoza or you select a Dante Moore. Although I feel like Mendoza would probably start more day one, in my opinion, but I can see them maybe taking a slow approach if they were to select Dante Moore. And so maybe, Deshaun gets out there for a few snaps with Shador backing him up.
I
Like
don't think they're ever going to intentionally play Deshaun Watson at quarterback again.
I,
We,
uh,
we hear like every single like couple of months,
yeah,
there's a new report like, oh, the Browns might use him here or he's doing good in his recovery. It's been like this for like 2 years now. And it's like,
yeah.
it seems so obvious. They have no plans of intentionally playing this guy ever again.
So here's my counterpoint to that is that it's not even about like this guy is any kind of an answer or this guy like we need to see what we have left in Deshaun. Like I know some people have done. I don't see that from them. However, I could see them just trotting him out as, hey, this guy's already on our books, and by the time that we get to next season, it's whenever he's done, we can cut him, and it's not, and none of the cap hit will still be zero for us anyway. So it's this guy's going to be on our books regardless. Let him like have him be the guy that takes a few hits for a couple of games.
Do you think he can play at an NFL level anymore though? Like I wonder because his thumb and shoulder surgery seemed to greatly affect him. He's had two Achilles tears, which greatly affects your ability to explode and throw the ball. Like I just wonder if he's even capable of playing NFL football anymore. Because
No,
like
and that's fair. But again, my whole thing is that I mean hell, maybe it's you start Shador and you have Deshaun back him up. But like again, the way that I look at it is just he is the equivalent of filling airtime. Like it's not going to be anything substantive. It's not anything that's going to be show stopping. It is quite literally a means to an end of whenever Dante or Fernando are ready, they will go in. But in the meantime, this is the dude that will just get the ever living crap beat out of him until then. Like that's the way that I kind of look at it. And in the same way that we started Joe Flacco for the first 4 weeks. Uh,
yeah, but people don't boo Joe Flacco though. Like
that
they're
that's
gonna
fair.
boo
That's fair.
Deshaun Watson.
I mean, I
Like
don't know. Maybe there's a call to the league office saying, "Hey, can we get like an extra long road trip to begin the season?" Like,
I
I don't know.
think I think you're better off just signing Jacoby Brissett or something like that, or like just
No, and
like
here's the thing. I don't disagree with you, but I'm just and again, I I do not want to see Deshaun Watson play again. I'm okay. I will live my life and I will be perfectly happy if I never see that man suit up for my team ever again. But at the same time, I'm also just thinking in terms of how they've built the rosters in the past. And at least for them, it's, hey, we're going to pay this guy regardless. Like whether it's keeping him in training camp as a training camp arm and then they cut him, like I can just see that being because of the fact that you're going to have that cap hit regardless going into this year, and whatever insurance money gets used for him, I can see him at least being on the roster into training camp and seeing where it goes from there as a potential veteran quarterback option.
We'll see what happens there. But Mac, thank you for joining me today. Where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at MacRobinson95. You guys can also find me on Blue Sky at Mac Robinson as well. Also, Monday through Fridays, I'm on the afternoon drive on 92.3 The Fan. You guys can find us from 2 to 7. We're live on YouTube as well from 2 until 7 every single day. And then also, I work with the Browns radio network on game days as well. So if you guys see like the inside the booth, you guys can see me in the backdrop for some of those calls. But yeah, you guys can find me there.
All right. Everybody have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.